Hey everyone, it's Dustin Bess again.
And Cassandra Bess.
And I posted up a question on the group that said this: what is currently your number one question about teenage brains that you wish you knew more about or understood better? And one of the answers / questions, I guess you would say, was, why are they so selfish? This is from Heather. Why are they so selfish, and why is it so hard for them to think about how their actions affect others, especially their parents? And then there's a second part of that question that I want to cover after Cassie explains the first part a little bit.
So I love neuroscience, and so we're going to just briefly talk about the neuroscience that is going on in teenage brain. So in my first or second grade level drawing, that's supposed to be the brain. So in the brain we have our PFC, or prefrontal cortex, which is in the front part of our brain that is over more of the critical reasoning and the higher, deeper level thinking, thinking about consequences to our decisions. And we also have the limbic system, or the amygdala, in the back central part of our brain that has to do with our protective mechanisms and our reactive responses, the fight, flight, or freeze response that happens when we feel like we're threatened in some way. So it's important to remember, as teenagers, this part of their brain is more fully formed, but their prefrontal cortex that helps in that higher level thinking and in regulating the responses of their limbic system is not fully developed and won't be until in their 20s. So that's why teenagers tend to be more selfish, or also in the moment are more reactive to things and don't think about the consequences. It's important to remember that they're not only not thinking about how their actions are going to impact you as parents, but when they're in that reactive response, they're also not thinking about how those actions are going to impact them. Because a lot of times, if they would take some time to think about it, they'd realize that those actions are going to lead to negative consequences or hurt or negative things for them. But in the moment, when they're in their reactive response, they're not thinking about those consequences for you or for themselves.
And they also just lack general life experience. So they don't have the experience of years of making decisions and seeing how those decisions have consequences and things like that. So they lack, where the prefrontal cortex is still underdeveloped, they lack sort of the forethought, if you will, to make the decisions. But then they also lack the life experience. So the second part of Heather's question that I just want to address real quick, she said, I don't understand, because when I was a teen, I know I thought about my parents' feelings more than my kids do. And this is just a study that I read a long time ago, specifically when cell phones were first coming out. Now, your experience and the way that you were specifically with your parents is somewhat, it's just your experience, and your kids' experience is going to be different. But there is an interesting study that I read a while ago that talked about how, with cell phones becoming more popular, that it's actually slowed down, and the research is actually showing that the development of the prefrontal cortex is slowing down. Kids are getting older and older, even up into their mid-20s, before their prefrontal cortex is fully developed. And this study kind of theorized that part of the reason for that is when we were kids and we didn't have cell phones. For example, if we went to a movie and we needed our parents to come pick us up, we had to plan that in advance. We had to know how long the movie was going to go. We had to know when to let our parents come and get us. Or if we were going to call them, we had to figure out, okay, where is a phone going to be that I can even call my parents from? With cell phones, things are so immediate. Things are so, you don't need a lot of forethought. And so whether that is tied to the lack of development in the prefrontal cortex, we don't really know. There's still a lot of things that are being figured out with cell phones, but it's kind of an interesting theory, if you will, as to why our experience when we were younger might have been, and we didn't have the cell phones, might have played a role into that prefrontal cortex development. So I hope that answers a little bit of your question. If you have additional questions about it, please let us know. Do you have anything else to add, Cassie?
No, that's good. That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but kind of directly gets at maybe the crux of that question.
So we'll try and answer more questions that got posted, but we just wanted to make a quick video about that one. Thanks.
Thanks.